to tell you a legendary story. A gentleman that probably you all know his name. A gentleman by the name of Howard Schultz, the CEO of Starbucks. With many of his partners, they made their way out to Eretz Yisrael to have a wonderful historical touring trip. Now, outside of the Golan and the Galil, they made it their point that they're going to go to Yerushalayim and they're going to visit the Muri Yeshiva and the venerable Rosh Yeshiva, the great Ramnasan Tzvi Finkel, Zechet Tzadik Lebracha. Could you imagine what type of a meeting that would be? On one side of the table, Howard Schultz, and on the other side of the table, the great Ramnasan Tzvi Finkel. Howard Schultz walks into the Rosh Yeshiva. Ramnasan Tzvi leans forward, and he had that golden smile. And he looks at Mr. Schultz, and he says to him, "Gentlemen, I want to ask you a question. What did we learn from the Holocaust?" Howard Schultz, he thinks to himself, "Rabbi, we learned from the Holocaust that we need an army." Ramnasan Tzvi said, "Very nice, but that's not what I was looking for." Another one of the partners said, "Rabbi, you know what we learned from the Holocaust? We learned that we need to fight back. We learned that we need government. We learned that we need strength." Ramnasan Tzvi said, "I hear, but that's not what I was looking for." And it's after answer, till finally they looked and they said, "Rabbi, tell us, what did we learn from the Holocaust?" Said Ramnasan Tzvi, looking them dead in the eye, "We learned from the Holocaust that 5 Jews can sleep together on one plank of wood and be covered by one blanket." And boy, was he right. So many don't know. But when those cattle cars pulled up to Auschwitz, it was every 5th Jew that was handed a blanket, and the 4 Jews before him was not. And then once they finally got inside to the Gehenna that was waiting for them, they were stripped down of everything of their world, exchanged with a striped pair of pajamas, with nothing left in the world. Here, gripping to a blanket in the freezing nights of Europe, this one Jew that was handed the blanket had to make one of the biggest decisions of his life. Does he share the blanket with the other 4 who didn't get one? And 9 out of 10 Yidden shared the blanket with the other 4 who didn't get. Huddled together on a plank of wood, under a blanket. Could you imagine the scene? That's what we learned from the Holocaust. It's at that moment that Ramnasan Tzvi leans forward. Stricken with Parkinson's disease, he begins to shake, and he's pushing away the pain. He's trying to show a smile, and he looks at Howard Schultz in the eye, and he says to him, "Mr. Schultz, Hashem gave you a blanket, and it's up to you to go out now and spread it all over the Jewish people." Howard Schultz leans back. "Rabbi, wow, we weren't expecting that. Rabbi, I'm going to start spreading my blanket, and I'm going to start with you." Howard Schultz pulls out a checkbook. He takes out his pen. He signs the check. "Rabbi, I'm starting my blanket with you. Here's a carte blanche check, filled out, signed. You could fill it out for any amount you want." And he pushes the checkbook across the table along with the ballpoint pen. At that time, the Muri Yeshiva was running a $2 million budget a month. Ramnasan Tzvi Finkel grabs the checkbook, blank check from a billionaire. He picks up the pen and his hand starts to shake due to the Parkinson's. And as best as he could, he holds the checkbook and he fills out the check. And he looks at Schultz and says, "For whatever I want?" He says, "Yes, Rabbi." He fills out the check for $1,200. And with all the strength that he had left, he mustered up that last ounce of strength, and he grabs the check, and he rips it out, and he leans forward, and he hands it to Howard Schultz, and he says, Howard, take this check. Go across the street. Across from the Mir Yeshiva, there's a Judaica store. Take this check and buy yourself a pair of tefillin. And put it on every single day. Do it for me. You see, ladies and gentlemen, when we would have handed a blank check from some billionaire, you know what we'd be thinking? We'd be thinking, how much can I take from this guy? When a Gadol was handed a blank check from a billionaire, you know what he was thinking? How much can I give to this guy? What can I give you? Because that is Gadlut. Gadlut is, how much can I give you? How much can I give you? And like the previous speaker eloquently mentioned, take a look that this is the hallmark of the leaders in the Gedolim of Klal Yisrael. They're not takers. They're selfless life givers. And they give their blood, sweat, and tears day in, day out for Klal Yisrael. And that's the Gadlut of Gedolim.